Hey there, happy Tuesday to you. Hope you're having a great start to the day. It's a bit of overcast this morning, but I did enjoy it. Got the umbrella out, walked over to the pool and did a bit of a swim. And I've got all these thoughts and all these things that I want to talk about on these motivational rants of mine. Whilst I was doing my swim, I did have some negative thoughts myself, and I thought that's something that I could talk about, is how we overcome those negative feelings, negative thoughts, negative events that might be happening in our lives and sort of favour the positive ones. And it started to make me reflect back on the Hidden Why podcast and how that came about. For a lot of you that may not know, I've been running this podcast, the Hidden Why podcast, interview many great guests on there. And it evolves around this idea of personal development and self-improvement and constant growth. I think it's really important to have that in your life. And certainly at the time, or before the time I started my podcast, I didn't have that in my life. And I remember I was working a job and it was bringing me down. It started off really strong, but then the whole company structure, the whole culture started to change. And it really hurt me because I was part of setting up that culture and I was really proud of that culture. But it really started to change from upward levels downwards. And I started feeling quite negative. And I used to remember, and you've probably had this experience yourself, I used to remember waking up daily, last minute, going to work, just hating it, really hating it. And it'd eat everything else in my life up. I'd come home with that same sort of negative feeling. And I wasn't doing anything to help myself at the time. I was eating the wrong foods, drinking more, watching, mindless TV or lots of news channels. And so that negative momentum just picked up pace. And something shifted in my life when I was introduced through a brother of mine to a podcast which was called The Kick-Ass Life by David Wood. He was actually one of the first guests. I think he was number one guest on my show. And that's why I started the Hidden Why podcast, because David Wood, he was just this person of motivation and positivity. And he just fired me up. Every day I had him in my ears. I started going for morning jogs, morning walks, whatever it was. Whenever it was, I'd make sure I had David Wood in my ears because it started to shift something within. It started me to move away from this negative mindset to a more positive mindset. And I think we all have those struggles every day. There's going to be something that goes on that's a bit negative. But do we want to let it consume us, or do we want to overcome it so we can move on with our life towards our goals, towards our dreams, towards our desires in life? And I think that's what's really important about that, because this morning I woke up with a bit of a negative feeling. And I thought, what can I do to change this? Well, I can do a motivational talk. That certainly will get me excited, get me motivated. I could go for a swim. Now, I didn't really want to, but I pushed myself to doing it. So there's certain things we can do to change our mindset. And I think the first thing is the physiology. Get out there and move. Do some exercise. Do something, some star jumps, whatever it might be, to get that blood flowing. Because more flow of blood to the brain, more energy in the brain, gives you more strength to focus on the positive. So I think that's a really important one we can do at any moment in the day. It doesn't have to be first thing, but if you're feeling a bit down midday, a bit negative, they often say, go outside. Go for a 10-minute walk. Do something to change your physiology, and that will change your mindset as well. I think the other thing that's really powerful, and certainly in my life, and I just talked about it, is finding some source of inspiration, of motivation, whatever it could be. It could be a really good audio book. It could just be a physical book. A lot of people, study religion, and they might read a chapter out of a religious book. It could be philosophy. I really enjoy philosophy and reading a page out of a philosophy book every now and then. It could be a podcast that you tune into. Something like this that lifts you up. So find that source of motivation, because that positive energy is contagious. And if you can surround yourself with that, you'll feel a bit more positive as well. And don't just do it one-off. Do it daily. Do it every single day, because every single day there's going to be struggles. Every single day you're going to have these negative thoughts. So if you can do the positive things every single day, you're going to have more success in overcoming those negative things and not letting it affect you. And the final thing, which I've sort of talked about a bit before, I don't want to drag this out, but I think media has a big problem in society at the moment. And we're all guilty of it, right? Switch off the TV, switch off the news. I think if we could switch off the news. Now, I know what you're saying, that, you don't want to just, disregard the world and what's going on out there. That's not what I'm saying at all. But I do want to note that TV is designed for the negative. It's designed to trap you in there with negative content. And if there's something that is on there that you can't do anything about, or is, external to your control, then is it really worthy of your time? Now, it's important to know what's going on, of course, but is it worthy of your time? And is it worthy of allowing your energy to be drained by that? The next biggest thing, I think, is social media. Now, it's not just the negative news or negative streams that come up on there. It's also just looking at other people's lives. It can often, and I know it happens, you see someone else doing something, you go, oh, geez, they're living the dream, they're living the great life. Geez, my life sucks. And then you start this negative self-talk. And that negative self-talk is consuming. So I think, if you're scrolling on social media, maybe just tap yourself next time and say, what am I doing? Is this conducive to what I want in life? Is this conducive to my goals? Have a think about that, because I think the more we can take those moments to go, what am I doing? Am I doing this with good intent? Or is it just mind-numbing activity? Because when you're doing those mind-numbing activities, you're often numbing something else. And I think the more you do of it, the less opportunities you have to do good stuff for you. So instead of scrolling through Facebook, find a motivational book that you can read and do that instead. Might just be a quick thought. And on that note, finally, I think if you have a negative thought or a negative feeling, or there's something negative happening in your life right now, yes, we can't always be positive and bubbly and Genki, as they say in Japanese, but we can shift that moment. So if you have this moment of a negative thought, maybe just take the time out to pause, go for that 5-minute walk, go sit outside for 5 minutes and meditate. Maybe self-reflect. What is that negative thought here for? Is it conducive to my survival? Is it conducive to me reaching my goals? Is it a sign that I need to change something in my life? Or is it irrelevant? Can I just push it away and focus on something else? So there's a few thoughts for you today, guys. Check it out, The Hidden Why. I have lots of motivational guests on there also all the time. Hope this thought has been important to you, because I know those negative and positive mindsets is a part of life, and that is life.